You could swallow a 500 milligram capsule of magnesium right now. And depending entirely on a single word printed in microscopic font on the back of that bottle, your body might only absorb like 12 milligrams of it.
Right, exactly.
Another 488 milligrams. It just sits in your gut, essentially doing nothing but causing, digestive chaos. So welcome to the supplement aisle.
It's a nightmare, really.
It is. You walk in looking for one thing to help you sleep or maybe to ease up those stress headaches, and instead you're staring at 8 different bottles that all boldly claim to be exactly what you need.
Yeah, it is the ultimate illusion of choice. I mean, they all shout magnesium in heavy, bold lettering, but underneath that umbrella term, you have glycinate, citrate, oxide, malate, L-Threonate.
Completely overwhelming.
Totally. And without the biological context of what those secondary words actually mean, picking a bottle is essentially just a gamble.
And it's a gamble that most of us lose, frankly, by just grabbing the cheapest option on the shelf. So today, we are decoding that entire matrix.
Yes, we are. We are diving into a really comprehensive guide authored by Yannis Lopez from Pines Nutrition. And he actually spent years working behind a supplement counter, answering the exact same question day in and day out, which is, which one of these should I actually take?
$1 million question.
Right. So our mission for this deep dive is to answer that question for you, save you from wasting money on the wrong bottle, and reveal how this one mineral might just be the missing biological puzzle piece you've been searching for.
I love that.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand the deception of the supplement shelf, we actually had to take a quick detour into fundamental chemistry.
We do, yeah?
Because Yannis points out a crucial fact that completely reframes how you look at these labels. You literally cannot buy a bottle of pure elemental magnesium.
No, you can't. And honestly, you wouldn't want to either.
Wait, really? Why not?
Well, magnesium is an alkaline earth metal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in its pure, isolated state, it is highly, highly reactive.
Oh. Yeah, if you somehow ingested pure elemental magnesium, not only would it be practically impossible for your intestinal lining to absorb it, but it would interact violently with your stomach acid.
Yikes. So it's basically a hazard in its raw form.
Pretty much. So to make it biologically useful and, stable enough to sit on a shelf for months, the magnesium atom has to be chemically bound to a chaperone.
A chaperone.
Right. This chaperone is usually an amino acid, an organic acid, or a salt. And this whole process is called chelation.
Okay. Which means when you buy a magnesium supplement, you are never just buying the mineral itself. You are buying a highly specific molecular combination.
Exactly.
So it's like buying a magnesium supplement is fundamentally like buying a car.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So the elemental magnesium, that's your engine. It contains the actual horsepower you are looking for. But that binding molecule, those are your tires.
Right, right.
If you have a massive, powerful engine, but you put slick racing tires on it and try to drive through a snowstorm, all that horsepower is completely useless.
You're just spinning your wheels.
Exactly. You aren't getting anywhere because the delivery mechanism is just wrong for the environment.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you are purchasing a delivery vehicle, and that chaperone molecule dictates 3 absolute biological realities.
Okay, what are they?
First, it determines how efficiently the magnesium actually survives your stomach acid and absorbs across your intestinal wall.
Which is huge.
Right. Second, it dictates the timeline, so how quickly it reaches your bloodstream. And third, and perhaps most importantly, that chaperone molecule is going to exert its own secondary effects on your body once it finally detaches from the magnesium.
Wow, okay. And that brings us to the ultimate trap on the label.
The fine print track.
Yes. You pick up a bottle, the front screams like, magnesium 400 milligrams. But then you flip it over to the fine print on the nutrition facts, and you see a wildly different story.
You really have to look for the phrase elemental magnesium.
Right.
Because the capsule itself might weigh 500 milligrams in total, but the vast majority of that physical weight is just the chaperone molecule.
Oh, so the actual magnesium part is tiny.
Exactly. The actual elemental magnesium inside that capsule might only be, say, 15 to 80 milligrams.
Right.
And that smaller elemental number is the only metric that matters for hitting your daily nutritional requirements. The front label is often just advertising the total weight of the complex, not the actual payload.
So deceptive. Okay, so knowing that we are shopping for the payload and the right delivery vehicle, let's examine the heavyweights of the aisle. The author is actually unequivocal about his primary recommendation for modern lifestyles, which is magnesium glycinate.
Yes, absolutely. It is the gold standard for a very specific set of modern physiological complaints.
Okay, like what?
Well, if you are dealing with chronic stress, Muscle tension, erratic sleep architecture, or that classic wired but tired phenomenon at the end of the day. Glycinate is the molecular structure you want.
And the mechanism behind it is fascinating, because the delivery vehicle here is glycine. And glycine isn't just some neutral wrapper that dissolves into the background.
Oh, far from it. Glycine is an amino acid that independently functions as an inhibitory neurotransmitter in your central nervous system.
So it actively does something in the brain.
Exactly. When it crosses into the brain, it binds to specific receptors that essentially increase the influx of chloride ions into your neurons.
Okay, what does that mean in plain English?
In plain English, it hyperpolarizes the cells, making them far less likely to fire off panic, anxiety, or stress signals.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it actively dampens the electrical noise in your brain.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the glycine also triggers vasodilation, right?
It does, yes.
So it opens up the blood vessels at your extremities, which actually drops your core body temperature.
Which is crucial for sleep.
Right. A drop in core body temperature is the primary biological switch that tells your brain it's time to initiate deep, slow-wave sleep.
Exactly. So you are getting a compounding 2-for-1 benefit here. The magnesium is doing its job repairing tissues, while the delivery vehicle is actively sedating your nervous system.
That is incredible.
Yeah, you take it 30 to 60 minutes before bed, and those two elements just work in tandem. Plus, Giannis notes the molecular bond is incredibly stable.
Meaning it survives the stomach.
Exactly. It survives the stomach and absorbs beautifully without irritating the gut at all.
Which is a stark contrast to the other heavyweight on the shelf, which is magnesium citrate.
Oh, yes. The infamous citrate.
Right. This is the ubiquitous, practical all-rounder. It is bound to citric acid. It's very affordable, and it's honestly likely what you'll find if you pick up just a mid-tier brand at the local pharmacy.
It's everywhere.
But wait, if glycinate is so vastly superior for absorption and, actively calming the brain, I'm struggling to understand why citrate hasn't been phased out entirely.
That's a fair question.
I mean, is its popularity purely a budget issue for manufacturers, or are people actively utilizing its specific side effects?
It's definitely the latter. People actively utilize the secondary effect of the citric acid.
Okay, tell me more.
Well, citrate works perfectly well for general magnesium repletion and mitigating muscle cramps. However, citric acid is a relatively large hydrophilic molecule.
Hydrophilic meaning it loves water.
Right, so when it reaches your digestive tract, it creates an osmotic gradient.
Meaning it acts almost like a sponge in the intestines, drawing surrounding water into the bowel.
Precisely. It pulls fluid from surrounding tissues directly into the intestinal lumen.
Okay, I see where this is going.
Yeah. At a conservative dose, say 200 milligrams of elemental magnesium, this gentle influx of water just softens digestion and promotes healthy daily bowel regularity.
Which is great for a lot of people.
Exactly. But at higher doses, or for individuals with really sensitive digestion, that osmotic pull becomes a highly effective, rapid laxative.
Wow.
So for someone suffering from constipation alongside their muscle cramps, citrate is an absolute lifesaver. It tackles both issues simultaneously.
That makes total sense.
And because it lacks the sedative effects of glycine, you can literally take it at 8 a.m. without feeling groggy at your desk.
Okay, that creates a very clear decision tree. Glycinate for the stressed out insomniac, and citrate for the budget conscious, or, the creatively backed up.
Well put.
But if citrate utilizes that osmotic effect for a specific helpful purpose, it makes me wonder what happens when a supplement triggers that water pulling mechanism completely by accident.
Yes.
Because that brings us to the real villain of the aisle, magnesium oxide.
The villain is the perfect word for it. It is the primary filler in almost every generic, low-cost multivitamin on the market today.
Really?
Yeah. If you check the ingredient list on a daily multivitamin and it just lists magnesium without specifying the chelation form, you can safely bet it is oxide.
And structurally, it looks like a phenomenal deal. You pick up a bottle, and the label boasts that a single capsule contains a massive 300 milligrams of elemental magnesium. It looks incredibly efficient.
It looks efficient, but the bioavailability is just abysmal.
Why is that?
Because the ionic bond between the magnesium and the oxygen in this specific arrangement is so tight that your stomach acid really struggles to break it down.
Oh, I see.
Clinical studies consistently demonstrate that magnesium oxide has a fractional absorption rate of roughly 4%.
4%. That is awful.
It's terrible.
Let's put some concrete math to that 4%. If you swallow that capsule claiming 300 milligrams of elemental magnesium, your body is only extracting about 12 milligrams into the bloodstream.
Exactly. And the remaining 288 milligrams travels fully intact into your lower intestine.
Oh, no.
And just like citrate, it triggers a massive osmotic pull.
But I'm guessing people aren't expecting that.
Right. Unlike citrate, where it's often a controlled intended effect, this is a heavy-duty, unwanted laxative bomb just sitting in the colon of someone who simply thought they were taking a healthy daily vitamin.
So buying magnesium oxide is essentially paying for a vanity metric.
Totally.
It's like a company boasting they have 1 million social media followers, but when you look closely, 96% of them are bots.
That is a perfect analogy.
Right. I mean, it looks incredibly impressive on the label, but it generates zero actual engagement for your body.
It relies entirely on the illusion of a high dose. Honestly, your cellular health would be far better served by a 50 milligram dose of highly bioavailable glycinate than a 400 milligram dose of poorly absorbed oxide.
So true. Okay, so if oxide fails so spectacularly because it can't cross the intestinal wall, that brings us to the ultimate absorption challenge, which is getting magnesium not just into the bloodstream, but actually into the brain.
Yes, the brain.
Because Giannis highlights a specialist form called magnesium L-Threonate.
What's fascinating here is that L-Threonate is not a naturally occurring complex. It was actually deliberately engineered.
Really?
Yeah, researchers at MIT developed it specifically to bypass one of the body's most secure fortresses, which is the blood-brain barrier.
The blood-brain barrier being, of course, that tightly woven mesh of endothelial cells that protects the brain from circulating toxins, but frustratingly also locks out larger beneficial mineral complexes.
Exactly. The tight junctions of the blood-brain barrier make it exceptionally difficult to raise magnesium concentrations in the cerebrospinal fluid.
So normal magnesium just bounces off.
Pretty much. You can flood the bloodstream with standard magnesium, but the brain's levels will barely budge.
Wow.
However, MIT researchers discovered that by binding magnesium to L-threonate, which is actually a metabolite of vitamin C, they essentially created a molecular Trojan horse.
A Trojan horse. I love that.
Yeah, the barrier's transport proteins recognize the L-threonate and actively pull the entire complex across the barrier and directly into the brain tissue.
So if your primary goal is combating brain fog, supporting memory consolidation, or just enhancing overall cognitive function, this is the VIP pass.
It really is, and it's heavily marketed under the patented name Magtine.
Right, I've seen that.
The neurological research is incredibly promising, but there is a substantial trade-off here.
There always is.
L-threonate is a very, very heavy molecule. To get a biologically meaningful payload, say 140 milligrams of elemental magnesium, you have to consume roughly 2,000 milligrams of the total complex.
Oh my goodness, so you're swallowing huge pills?
You are taking massive capsules multiple times a day, and it is significantly more expensive than literally any other form.
So you are paying a huge premium for the transportation technology, essentially.
Exactly.
Okay, Giannis also flags another specialist, magnesium malate. Here, the mineral is bound to malic acid. And malic acid is a critical catalyst in the Krebs cycle.
Right, the energy cycle.
Exactly. That's the biological engine inside your mitochondria that turns food into ATP, or cellular energy.
Vital stuff.
So if your primary symptom is profound, chronic daytime fatigue, malate is the specialist you want because it directly feeds that cellular energy production.
Perfect for fatigue, yeah.
Oh, and we should probably briefly mention magnesium sulfate.
Better known as Epsom salts. They are wonderful for dissolving in a hot bath to soothe localized muscle soreness, but they are entirely useless as an oral supplement for raising your systemic internal magnesium levels.
Good to know. Don't eat the bath salts.
Please don't.
All right, so the matrix is officially decoded. We know exactly what to buy and what to run away from. But that prompts the most vital question. How do you know if you are actually running empty?
That is the big question.
What is happening in the body that signals a deficiency?
Well, the insidious thing about magnesium deficiency is that the symptoms mimic the general malaise of modern life.
Oh, like we just brush it off.
Exactly. We write them off as just getting older or working too hard. We're talking about intractable insomnia despite perfect sleep hygiene.
Right.
Unexplained low-level anxiety, nocturnal leg cramps, eye twitches, and an underlying fatigue that a full night of sleep just doesn't resolve.
And it's just a matter of, not eating enough leafy greens.
Oh, yeah.
The very mechanics of our modern lifestyle actively siphon magnesium out of our bodies.
They really do.
Let's talk about the diuretic effect.
Yeah.
If you rely on multiple cups of coffee to get through the day, or you habitually wind down with alcohol, you are chronically depleting your stores.
It's a huge problem.
Both caffeine and alcohol actively suppress the antidiuretic hormone in your brain.
And without that hormone signaling your kidneys to retain water, your kidneys basically go into overdrive, flushing fluids directly into your bladder.
Okay.
And because magnesium is a highly water-soluble mineral, it gets washed out in your urine before your cells ever even have a chance to utilize it.
Wow. And then you add chronic stress to that mix, and it's just a biological disaster.
A total disaster.
When your body activates the fight or flight response, it burns through massive amounts of ATP, which requires magnesium to stabilize, right?
Yes, exactly.
So stress depletes magnesium, and a lack of magnesium makes your nervous system hypersensitive to stress. It is a completely ruthless feedback loop.
Which logically leads people to their doctor for a blood test.
Sure, that makes sense.
But this is where the medical landscape completely fails the average patient. Standard serum blood tests for magnesium are notoriously dangerously misleading.
So what does this all mean? If modern medicine relies on a serum test, how is it failing to spot a deficiency? I mean, are doctors just missing this?
It comes down to the biological principle of homeostasis.
Okay, break that down for me.
Only about 1% of your body's total magnesium is actually suspended in your blood plasma.
Wait, really? Just 1%?
Just 1%. The other 99% is locked securely away inside your bone density, your muscle tissues, and your organs.
Oh, wow.
But that 1% in the blood is absolutely critical. Your heart relies on a highly precise serum magnesium level to maintain its electrical rhythm.
So the body will do whatever it takes to keep that blood level stable, even if it means cannibalizing the rest of the body.
Exactly. If your dietary intake drops, your parathyroid gland senses the slight dip in blood serum and immediately commands your bones and muscles to release their stored magnesium into the bloodstream to compensate.
That is wild.
Yeah. Your blood levels remain perfectly normal, but your tissues are slowly starving. By the time a standard blood test finally registers as deficient, your intracellular reserves are completely bankrupt.
That's terrifying.
It is. Even specialized red blood cell or RBC tests, while slightly more accurate, still struggle to capture the full picture of tissue depletion.
Meaning, we're likely looking at a massive blind spot here. There are probably millions of people walking around functionally deficient, suffering from daily anxiety and exhaustion, and their doctors are just sending them home saying their labs are flawless.
This happens every day.
So if the tests are an illusion, what is the actual diagnostic solution?
The author suggests the most pragmatic tool available, which is just a 30-day biological trial.
Okay, how does that work?
Well, the recommended daily allowance for adults hovers between 310 and 420 milligrams of elemental magnesium.
Right.
However, dietary surveys show that a person eating a standard modern diet is only extracting about 200 to 250 milligrams from their food.
Leaving a daily deficit of roughly 150 to 200 milligrams.
Exactly. So rather than chasing flawed blood work, the safest approach is simply to bridge that specific gap. Supplement with 200 milligrams of highly absorbable elemental magnesium, like glycinate, every evening for 30 days.
Okay.
And then you just let your body's data speak for itself.
You look for the quiet victories. Like, does the eye twitch vanish? Does the underlying hum of anxiety finally settle down? Are you suddenly sleeping through the night for the first time in a decade?
Exactly.
The author makes a brilliant point here. Magnesium isn't glamorous. It doesn't give you like an artificial rush. But the success stories are profound. It just requires the discipline of consistency, taking the right molecular vehicle every single night for a month.
The author's dietary statistics leave us with a deeply unsettling, broader context, though.
Oh, what's that?
If a varied modern diet consistently leaves us hundreds of milligrams short of a vital mineral, it forces you to look critically at the very foundation of our food supply.
That is a very good point.
If your biology requires this exact amount of magnesium just to maintain basic physiological baseline, to allow your heart to beat, your muscles to relax, and your brain to sleep, what exactly has happened to the quality of our topsoil and our industrial agriculture?
Wow.
Have we depleted the earth so thoroughly that a fundamental human nutritional requirement is now something you almost have to buy in a bottle just to function normally?
We think we're eating a nutrient-dense salad, but the soil it grew in might be completely bankrupt.
Precisely.
It's a profound thought to take with you to the grocery store. Well, that concludes our deep dive into the magnesium matrix. Tonight, do yourself a massive favor. Open your cabinet, grab your bottle, and scrutinize that back label.
Check the fine print.
Yes, check your chaperone molecule, verify your elemental payload, and make absolutely sure you aren't trying to drive through the snow on slick racing tires. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.